everybody's talking about the deal with Jim Harbaugh and Jim Schwartz. I thought it was great for TV.
Right.
League didn't do anything about it. We're going to hear later with Barry's rant about it. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I'm like you. I thought it was entertaining. When I watched it, I was laughing. There weren't any punches thrown. It was something that got out of hand, but I don't think they should have been fined. I think the NFL, they overfine people. So it's a smart decision for the NFL not to fine these guys. But this is something that I really like because it showed the passion. It showed that all coaches aren't just stoic. They also have emotion. They want to win the game. What I liked about Jim Schwartz before this incident, you'd always see the highlights when his team does something good. He's pumping his fist. He's running onto the field. You appreciate that as a player. You appreciate a coach showing emotion, saying, you know what, all that effort you just put into that play, it moved me. It moved me to pump my arms to run up and down the sideline. And Jim Harbaugh is the same way. After the game, he showed emotion, ex-quarterback, ex-NFL player. That's what you expect. But if I had to say somebody was in the wrong, it was Jim Harbaugh. After a game like that, when you're about to go to the losing coach, that's when you subdue yourself, you calm down, good game coach, and keep it moving. You don't give him the over-aggressive handshake, saying explicit and hit him on the back like Jim Harbaugh did. So that's the only thing that I didn't like about it. But what Jim Schwartz did, I have no problem with that. That's what you teach your sons to do. That's what you hope your brother, your father would do. You go after someone who disrespected you. They separated them. It didn't get out of hand. It made for great TV, and I love the emotion on both sides.
Men behaving badly. You know what precipitated it? Harbaugh didn't know the rules. He called for a challenge. It was a 15-yard penalty, and Schwartz yelled across the field, giving him a hard time about not knowing the rules.
Oh.
So that's what got Harbaugh all fired up to go over there and see, stick it where the sun doesn't shine. I wish those guys, they got a chance those two could play again in the playoffs the way those teams are going.
Definitely.
Now, there's a great, I can't believe that Cincinnati, after all that stuff, not trading Carson Palmer, but Mike Brown comes out like a genius, trading a number one and a conditional pick. Gets that from the Raiders for Carson Palmer. Is this a good deal?
This is a great deal for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think Carson Palmer was on the other side of his career. Everyone talks about Carson Palmer was upset because they weren't doing anything for him. They surrounded him with talent. For a couple of years, he had the best receiving duo, arguably, in the NFL with Chad Ochocinco and TJ Houshmandzadeh. They've given him running backs. They've given him very good offensive linemen. So you can't tell me, if you're Carson Palmer, that Cincinnati Bengals didn't attempt to give you what you needed to be successful. You just didn't get the job done. So for having a disgruntled guy, a guy who wasn't going to play for you, you get a first-round pick for him. I think that is huge. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you already have your wide receivers of the future with A.J. Green, Jordan Shipley when he comes back from injury, and you already have your quarterback for the future with Andy Dalton, who's not lighting it up like a Cam Newton, but he has shown that he could be the leader of your team. He's effective, and he gets better every single week, and he leads you to bigger victories every single week. So now you have an extra first-round pick to play with. I think this was hands down great job by the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know if it just landed in their lap or if they actually negotiated and they were just a better negotiator in this deal. But I think Cincinnati, by far, did a very, very good job on this.
But can Palmer help the Raiders? Jason Campbell's out. Campbell says he's coming back in 6 weeks, but nobody knows. How do they know if he's got to learn a new offense?
Right.
Has he been getting in shape? Can he help the Raiders? And if so, how soon?
Can he help the Raiders? We'll just have to find out how soon. It depends on how he's been training. We don't know if he's been sitting back like myself, drinking a pop, watching the games, or if he's been out there training every single day knowing that he was going to get a call eventually. I never like when you have a trade that involves a quarterback in the middle of the season. Quarterback is the hardest position to play and the hardest position to learn in the NFL. And for Palmer to come in week 7, have to learn the entire playbook, learn the timing, learn the chemistry of the wide receivers, I'm not expecting it to be lights out the first couple of weeks. I think it's going to take time. And I also think that the Oakland Raiders are going to suffer. I thought that they were on their way to the playoffs, but right now I feel like they're going to take some steps back and they may miss the playoffs because they don't have a quarterback that's been in the system.
Now we bring you our weekly segment on the NFC East, sponsored by Indy Kalu, who played for the Eagles and the Redskins. Your Eagles broke their losing streak. We predicted it. What do you think about the division right now?
Right now, I was saying that the NFC East was looking like it could be one of the worst divisions. I don't think that anymore. I think they're a like a mid-major if you want to compare it to college. They're not the best division. They're definitely not the worst. I think they're more competitive than the AFC South. But when you look at the teams, when you look at Dallas, when you look at Washington, when you look at the Giants, you look at the Eagles, any of those teams can win it, right? The Redskins are the only teams that I would say, you know what, they're probably not going to win the division, even though they have one of the better records. I think it's going to come down to the Giants and the Eagles. The Eagles still have a losing record, but with all that talent, once they start gelling, once they start really believing in the system, believing in Coach Juan Castillo, the first-time defensive coordinator who was an offensive line coach for 18 years, I think that's when you're going to start to see this talent. I had a chance to talk to Jason Babin for a long time yesterday, and he's ecstatic about what's going on there. He feels once Trent Cole, the other defensive end, gets back, they're going to continue to wreak havoc. I really do believe the Philadelphia Eagles are going to try to climb their way back into it, and it's going to come down to the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles when it's all said and done.
As I said last week, before they beat the Redskins, I think they're the best team in the league to turn it around, and I still believe it now more than ever. Drew Brees, Tom Brady are the two best quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers is closing in fast. Peyton Manning's out. Sunday's an example of why Brady's still the best. Brees had a chance to win the last play, intercepted in the end zone. If that had happened against the Texans, he would have completed it. Brady, his last drive, his last pass against the Cowboys, masterpiece,
yes.
Like Michelangelo painting. What do you think about what those two guys did at the end of their games?
You know, with Drew Brees, it's one of those things where you just say, hey, he's a great player who had a bad moment. All great quarterbacks, from Joe Montana to Steve Young to Warren Moon. I'm sure they could point to a few plays that they wish they could have back where they felt like they lost the game. So Drew Brees, I don't think it's time to question whether he's an elite quarterback. He's still elite. But let's talk about the positive. Tom Brady, every week he just continues to show why he's considered the best currently playing. And you're absolutely right. When I watched that last play, Tom Brady just threw the perfect pass. Aaron Hernandez ran a good route. He did a good job catching the ball. The defender was in perfect position. If I was a defensive back coach for the Dallas Cowboys, I would tell that defender, you did everything right. You just have to make a play on the ball. But other than that, there isn't anything that you could tell that defender. It was just a perfectly thrown pass and a very good route and a very good catch by Hernandez, one of their premier tight ends.
Packers unbeaten at this time for the first time since Vince Lombardi was coaching, and they won their first Super Bowl. Can they go undefeated?
Not only can they go undefeated, there won't be a team that beats them this year, but I'm not saying that they're going to go undefeated. If they lose, it's going to be because they beat themselves, because they start reading the clippings, they start believing the hype. But I do not think there's a team that's better than the Green Bay Packers. I think they're going to go straight to the Super Bowl, and they're going to win every game unless they decide that they want to show up one Sunday.
What do you think about what's going on in Denver? They don't think Tim Tebow can play, so they made him a starter. And then they trade away one of the best receivers, Brandon Lloyd. It looks to me like they're slowly unloading to try to have the worst record to get Andrew Luck. Goes to Stanford. John Elway's seen him a bunch. Do you think that's what Denver's doing, and could they be the worst team?
You know, knowing what type of competitor John Elway was and probably still is, it's hard to believe that he's systematically trying to destroy this team so they could get the number one pick. That goes against anything most players believe in. You don't try to lose. You don't put your team in a position to lose. I don't know if they're just trying to free up cap space for the future so they can sign other veterans. I would hope that they're not trying to tank this season on purpose to go after Andrew Luck. If so, it's going to end up biting them. I think things play themselves out. You know, I don't know if you want to call it karma or you get what you deserve, but if that's what they're trying to do, they're going to accidentally win 2 or 3 games that they shouldn't win, and who knows, the Colts are going to get Andrew Luck. But you just don't do that. It's not fair to the fans. It's not fair to the players that are going out there risking their health and, you know, risking everything that they love to play the game that they love, for you to try to tank the season so you can get one guy who's going to be among 22 starters who may or may not get you to where you need to be.